you will not show up in the recording. So yes, we are officially recording. Welcome, everybody to the Amethyst team. I am Ms. Schnard. I'm the math teacher. Ms. Reynolds is our team leader. She's admitting people as they come in, so she's going to stay muted for a couple minutes. Ms. Wexler is our science teacher. Mr. Dewitt is our social studies teacher. We have Mr. Bakia on the call. He is an extended Amethyst team member. He is your students' tech ed teacher. And then Mr. Cutler, our assistant principal, is also on the call. So thank you all so much for taking the time out of your night to come meet with us, literally Google Meet with us. It's good to have you all. I'm going to start off with talking about Google Classroom. Since last year, transitioning to distance learning, we have started using Google Classroom as our primary source of keeping documents, making announcements to the students, and assigning homework. So Google Classroom really is the key point and the point of contact for each of our individual classes. And it's really, honestly, a pleasant outcome of COVID because at the high school, that's how they run it as well. All of the things, if you have older students, are streamlined through Google Classroom. So it's really good, we feel, to prepare students for high school, which is really the core aspect of this year. The theme of our year is to prepare for high school, that students get exposure to Google Classroom and learn how to use it effectively and appropriately. So just a couple key points. When you open an individual Google Classroom, so this is my Google Classroom, the stream will typically be pretty empty. It's only used for individual announcements. If we were out for the day and wanted to say, hey class, we're out, here are our plans for today. Or hey, quick reminder, we have a quiz coming up this week. The stream will be minimized to just very, very important announcements. On the other hand, the classwork tab, which I've highlighted up here, is where you're going to see all the assignments organized by topic. Just as if you were in any of our personal classrooms, each Google Classroom is going to be organized slightly differently, but a lot of the aspects will be the same. If you look at my Google Classroom, for example, it's organized by week so that each day students know what we're doing in class. Other classes may do it by unit, by topic, etc., but the students are using it frequently enough that they should know how each class is set up. So that's where all of the assignments are. We are heavily encouraging students to use the to-do list. This is not in lieu of a physical planner that they write their homework in, but the to-do list offers a really convenient place for students to find upcoming assignments. So that's on the home page when they open up their Google Classroom. My screenshot right here kind of shows 3 math classes, but that's because that's what I teach. Your student would have a math class, a science class, a social studies class, etc. And they would have this to-do list in the corner. And the to-do list is going to summarize what is due today, what is due tomorrow, what is due this week. And so it's a really nice additional structure for students to have to organize their work. So that's pretty much the key points of Google Classroom. When a student's absent, encourage them, if they're feeling well, if they're well rested enough, encourage them to check their Google Classrooms and then reach out to teachers with further questions. So yeah, Google Classroom, that's our key resource, one of the best ways that we feel keeps students organized. I'm going to pass over to Ms. Reynolds now to talk a little bit about our MA structure.
Thanks, Ms. Schnard. Thanks, everybody. So hi, I'm Lauren Reynolds. I'm the team leader. I thank Ms. Schnard for offering out that warm welcome to all of you. Just one more key aspect to Google Classroom this year. We have color-coded the classes just to help our students stay even better organized. So for instance, language arts would be like the yellow banner. So that's just an extra feature that we added on to help out with the kids and to help you as well. So thanks, Ms. Schnard. I'm going to talk about a few more things. I'm going to talk about the guidance counselors, and I'm also going to be talking about MA. So let me share my screen. So our school counseling staff is made up of Ms. Dawn Hoblet. She is actually a new counselor to King Philip. She was formerly at Conard. We do have support counselor Ms. Graff and also a clinical interventionist this year, Ms. Bond. All these counselors provide a series of services that promote the social, emotional, career, and academic growth of all of our students. So our 8th grade students here on Amethyst will see either Ms. Hoblet or Ms. Graff. They're wonderful outlets to help our students and also to provide outreach at home. So if you do have any questions or concerns about the overall well-being of our students, you can certainly contact the teachers and in our school's counseling staff. The second thing that I would like to talk about before we get into our academic courses is going to be looking at advisory. Advisory is a huge component part of our King Philip community. It is a community building opportunity. It promotes character. It is a time for us to make a concerted effort to connect each day. And also advisory with your child's advisor. It's a point of contact for families. Each day, we do have daily theme lessons from Mindful Mondays, which is focusing on organizational strategies, Talk to Me Tuesdays, which can be light and broad, trivia. We do have our social justice and SEL lessons that run on Wednesdays and Thursdays, and Fridays, Fun Friday, games, indoors, outdoors, CNN 10, and other things just to kind of relax and ease into the weekend after a long school work week. So overall, if you do have any questions about advisory, please reach out to your child's advisory teacher. Now what I'm going to do is transition over into a review of our core academic classes. We're going to start with language arts. What we're going to do is just highlight some salient points that we sent home to you in just the weekly update where we uploaded a series of our syllabi. So for English, we have language arts. Our goals for the year is to become critical readers and writers by examining literature and informational texts. Our writing and our class discussions are going to be used as outlets to talk about the tension between the needs of the individual society. We have self-advocacy skills that we really hone in our language arts class, as well as fostering student independence. Our units of study are basically focused in on 4. We have the road taken, which is unit 1, short stories and poetry. We have lessons from the past, present, and future, which is our focus on historical fiction and informational texts. We also have struggles and successes, which is our 3rd unit of study, where we focus in on memoir and narrative. And our final unit of study, which is identity in society, will be focused in on drama. A lot of our classical literature will be a part of our 4th quarter unit. Is going to occur in several outlets throughout the year, whether or not it's instructional methodology, text complexity, extension tasks, and also performance assessments. Just to help you out with the grading system, I have 4 categories that I use to grade my students, and I find these categories to be in the best interest of students. I use a point system for grading, so again, at the end of the day, it's easy math as far as how many points you earned versus how many points you could have. So I grade according to independent exercises, which can be things that are done in or out of class, responses to literature, which are writing pieces, shorter pieces, speaking and writing, and also grammar and vocabulary, the fundamentals. So overall, do as well with the main focus of my class is to foster and breathe the culture of reading into everything that we do. Independent reading is an important aspect of language arts. What are you reading? There's a lot of choice texts that we incorporate as well. Finally, homework. Our homework objectives are to reinforce the material and to encourage reflection in classwork. I don't give homework every single night, and normally what we're seeing is that homework is usually anything that we don't finish in class. So again, there's a lot of flexibility and understanding that we're easing back into the schoolhouse model, but it's not business as usual just yet. And we're very sensitive to that and sensitive to the needs of our students and a lot of their overscheduled schedules. So that is language arts, and I'm going to turn it over to Miss Chenard. Back to her.
All right. So I am the math teacher on Amethyst team. I like to say that I'm the best math teacher on Amethyst team, mostly because I'm the only one, but I'm still the best. I teach your student either in Math 8 or in honors. Either way, they're getting the same Ms. Chenard each day, and they're getting the same level of expectation and rigor. Because for the math department in West Hartford, rigor is one of the most important things, making sure what we're giving the kids is challenging. We promote their reasoning skills, and we also try to make it relevant. Where does the math apply in their everyday life? Um, as we move on in my career in the years, more and more data is becoming the relevant application of math as well as computer science. So this year and moving forward into their high school career, you're going to really see that push for data analysis and for computer science literacy, especially at the high school. And I'm really excited to explain those options to your kids as the year goes on. We do a lot of this through mathematical discourse. Not only is it important to find the answer, but it's important to be able to explain and talk about how you got your answer. And our problem solving skills, again, that's a 21st century skill that we promote in this class. And self-confidence. So being able to be confident in approaching a problem, knowing that you have a lot of tools in your toolbox at your disposal to tackle these rigorous, relevant, real life problems. On a personal level, my philosophy is that every student can, and in my experience, will be successful in math. That may look different for each learner, but we will celebrate successes as the year goes on. I know not every student comes to math loving it, but my goal is that they leave the year moving forward on their appreciation for math. Maybe that's moving from thinking it's okay to liking it a little bit more, or from loving it to loving it even more by the end of the year. And to do that, I really celebrate mistakes. I think students being afraid of making mistakes is one of the barriers to learning math. So I really celebrate the importance of making mistakes. I tell students all the time, we actually learn better when we make mistakes. So mistakes are a really important part of the process. And I also think it's important to meet kids where they're at. Again, we're all at different points in our math journey. So it's important to recognize that it's not a one size fit all model and that I need to meet all students where they're at. So to be successful, I send kids a lot of resources, whether that's my YouTube videos explaining the concepts from class, providing them with copies of the notes we did in class, and I even provide answer keys a lot. I'll talk about that in a moment with my homework policy. I really encourage students to be resourceful, to work with their problem solving. And this says email to set up a time with me twice, because I think it's really important that if you need extra help, you reach out to me directly. Again, this year is really about building these learners to be ready for high school. Self-advocacy is one of those huge fundamental skills that's important for high school and moving forward. So it's really important that students advocate for themselves and reach out to me when they need help. With that being said, we're still aware that these are 8th graders. So if you're noticing that your student at home is struggling with math, please don't hesitate to reach out to me by email or phone, to just kind of encourage me to check in with your student, or encourage your student to check in with me, because we're really a partnership and it's important that we act that way. And then Power School is also really important just to keep up with what your student might be missing. So that's another great way to just kind of know what's going on in the classroom. And my big theme of the year is perseverance, being able to stick to it like a postage stamp until they get there. That was the first homework assignment of the year, something like that, a word scramble. So sticking to it no matter what. I always say homework is to practice as tests are to games. LeBron James doesn't just show up to the game and score 300 points or whatever he's scoring these days. He has to practice to get there. And so I encourage students that we do need nightly practice to reinforce those skills so that when we get to the test, we feel prepared. I really try to keep it, like Miss Reynolds said, to a minimum, right? I'm not trying to tax your student. I'm just trying to get that nightly reinforcement of art in class learning. They should not be spending more than 30 minutes. If they're spending more than 30 minutes, you need to touch base with me, or they need to touch base with me, so that we can figure out, why is it taking so long? Are we distracted by a device that's near us? Do we need a quieter space? Or are we having trouble with the work? Because it's really not designed to spend more than 30 minutes. Because I give nightly homework, I do give 2 exempts per quarter. They do not roll over, so you can't just skip 8 or do all your homework all year and then get 8 exempts at the end of the year. But I do exempt homework assignments quarterly, because I know things come up. And so I am aware of that and respectful of that. At the 3rd missing homework assignment, I'll have your student in for a working lunch to complete it for half credit, because I think getting it done is important. I do post answers to Google Classroom, because I think it's very important that students have a way to get immediate feedback if they're doing it right or wrong, and again, can use it as a resource to determine where their mistake might lie. So we talk about it a lot in class. I'm aware that they could just copy it down. I was born at night, but not last night. But we talk about how if you cheat at practice, it's going to show on the court. So that's not really the best option or in their best interest. And it's a thing that a lot of high school math teachers are doing. So again, preparing them for high school, I want them to learn how to use a tool the correct way. And to me, the answer key is a tool. And they also have monthly IXL skill refreshers to help them hone in on previously learned skills that'll be very foundational to what we're learning. And then the last important part of my class is the puns on Thursday, Turbo Pun Thursday. So teaching, this job isn't for everyone, but hey, it's in my genes. Get it? Because okay, it's not good. It's supposed to be terrible. All right, Mr. DeWitt, your turn. Sorry.
That wasn't fair that you left them with that joke. That's a lot to follow up on. Hello, everyone. I'm Bill DeWitt. I am the U.S. history teacher on the Amethyst team. I also want to share out a little bit with you. Here we go. So just to take you through this year in U.S. history, and to let you know, and just starting at the top where we begin the year with the colonial period, we did introduce that last week, and we just follow a basic timeline as the year progresses, all the way through springtime when we reach the Civil War period, and then Reconstruction as we end the year. One of our skills as we do a lot of what we do this year centers around reading primary sources as a follow-up to what Ms. Reynolds said about the intensity of the reading and language arts. It is at a different level in 8th grade with our use of primary sources. So the skill focus that we have is something that carries through from 6th grade to 7th grade and into 8th grade and even into high school. And that is still focusing on writing claims and supporting them with evidence. This year, your students, my students, will be, I use a lot, and they may have talked about political cartoons, as I am, the person that loves political cartoons and try to find a way to incorporate those through most, as many lessons as possible. And this document, just so you know, has been shared with each student in their Google Classroom in terms of grading, in terms of expectations with work throughout the year. We do have our first involved, weeks-long project coming up with something known as witness stones. We've been working at this for the past 3 years. It actually is a way for students to investigate West Hartford and the role that slavery played not only in Connecticut but in this town through the 1700s and into the 1800s. And I can actually show you one of my political cartoons. It's not as funny as Ms. Chenard's pun, but just kind of what we look at this year and this type of the work that we do. And this is a way for me to connect students with current events as well. The last thing I wanted to wrap up with is just to share out, and students may have come home talking about Mr. Gerard. Mr. Gerard is interning with us this year from University of Connecticut. He actually taught a great lesson today. You can ask your children about that. But he comes in once a week through the fall, and starting his spring term, which for us is in January, he'll be slowly taking over classes as we progress through his spring, which would end the beginning of May. So he's come in to get familiar, connect with the kids. I think the kids really like him. He's got a very good way about himself. So I just wanted to make sure everyone was aware of that. When he actually formally does take over, he'll be sharing his biography and kind of giving his background. But just to make everyone aware. And with that, I will pass it off to Miss Wexler in science.
Hi, everybody. So I don't have a cartoon or a joke for you. I'm sorry about that in advance. But maybe you'll just find my wit to be really funny. Okay, so for science, let's get started here. Am I all set? Okay, there I am. Maybe. Okay, there we go. So for eighth grade science is mainly a physical science course. We start the year, we're finishing up actually our first unit on math, measurement, and motion. You can check in with your students. We have our unit test this coming Friday. We're reviewing all week for it. So we've just been learning about speed and motion. And then from there, we're going to be moving into learning about forces and Newton's laws. We'll learn about types of energy, kinetic and potential energy transfer and transformation. We'll be learning about waves. And then at the end of the year, we have a chemistry unit where we learn about structures and properties of matter and also chemical reactions. A change from last year, which is definitely a change for the better, is we're going back to doing a lot of labs in class, which is really awesome. Last year, we weren't able to share materials, and so it was very hard to make a lab course happen. But eighth grade science is very lab heavy. We have multiple labs that we do with each of our units. We have another one tomorrow that we're doing, and I think that it's a great way to learn. So I'm really excited to be able to kind of bring your students through that this year, especially because 7th grade with life science is a little bit less lab focused. So I think it's a good change for them. And again, getting them ready for high school, because high school sciences are very lab focused. With that being said, safety is always going to be our #1 priority in class. All of the students brought home safety contracts that were all returned 100%. They all got an 80% or higher on their safety quiz that they took at the beginning of the year, which means that everybody is aware of all of the safety rules that we have. But it is something that we emphasize as we go through the year. And each time that we do a different activity, we'll do a quick review of the safety rules that are pertinent, because safety is definitely going to be our priority. That being said, we do a lot of science literacy and scientific method work. We're going to be, again, with all of our labs that we do, we're going to be working on the scientific method. We're going to be learning about variables. We're also, similar to math, we're very data focused. We do a lot of work with graphing this year and creating graphs, analyzing sets of data, making predictions. So that will certainly be a focus for us. If I go on to my next slide, my class is kind of, if we think about our daily schedule in class, we always have a daily objective. Students are coming in every day and they're writing their objective down in their notebooks. That way everybody knows exactly what we're doing. Once I've completed attendance and we do our do now, we take a moment to go through the objective so that everybody is on the same page of what we're going to focus on for the day. Then there's some sort of lecture or notes if it's a content day, or we're getting right into an activity of whatever we're doing. And then at the end of class, we usually have some sort of check for understanding or something to wrap things up. As far as the different ways that I'm measuring student progress, we do classwork, homework, as was said. I don't give nightly homework. I give homework when it's important and when it's meaningful. And as I think Ms. Reynolds says, a lot of it ends up being we start something in class and then we finish it for homework. So that's kind of going to be the focus. The other thing that I have students do a lot for homework is I have students copy their notes in advance into their notebook. So that way, when they come into class, we're able to go through our lecture or our notes at a much quicker pace, instead of waiting for people who write at different paces to copy definitions and different things into their notebook. I send the lectures home the night before. They write everything in their notebook. So that way, when we come through class, we can really go through and focus more on doing the practice and the stuff that I would like to be present and working with your students on, instead of spending a lot of time kind of waiting for everybody to finish copying their different definitions and everything. So that's something that you'll see students doing a lot for their homework, in addition to kind of finishing anything that we don't finish in class. I also mentioned already, students in my class have a notebook. I emphasized at the beginning of the year that students need a science notebook for the year, and it has to be for science only. I will be collecting them. We take notes in class. Again, we're content driven, so we have definitions and we have things that we are, that we have to practice, and we have formulas that we're using. So I think it's important to kind of for students to have those notes. And also I think that it's important because they're building these skills, these note-taking skills, so that they can then go to high school and, continue being successful with that. So I really work hard to build some of those note-taking skills in 8th grade. I, will walk around the room and say, like, now would be a great time to take out a highlighter, or that would be something that I would put a star next to, and kind of working to build some of those note-taking skills. We do also have unit tests. You'll see students getting ready for those. I always provide a study guide. I usually post the answer keys and stuff like that. And we do lots of lab activities, lab reports that students will be handing in. I also grade on a point system, so things are worth 5 to 100 points depending on the size of the assignment, and students will receive the amount of points that they earn. I do use, and this is something new for me this year, I'm working really hard in Power School to make notes of some things that say, like, this assignment can be redone, or see teacher if you'd like to retake this graded do now, so that students kind of are able to take those cues to make things up, to redo things if they need to. So really encourage your student to pay attention to Power School and kind of look at what's in there, because I think all of us, we use it, we update very, very frequently, and that will be, along with Google Classroom, kind of your first line of defense to make sure that everybody's up to date and doing what they need to do. And reach out to me if you ever need anything. Okay, so I'm going to give it back to Ms. Reynolds to kind of wrap things up, and thank you everybody for coming.
Thanks, Ms. Wexler. Thanks, everybody. So just to review a few points, what we do in each of our individual classes really does transition very nicely in an interdisciplinary way to all of our classes. The skills that we focus in on are writing, our speaking, our organization skills. We really try to thread throughout all of the classes, and we hope that the students take note of that, and as well as you at home. To put into the chat right now is that getting to know you form. This was the form that I put into our weekly blast on Friday. And if you have not had a chance to fill that out and you think that there's important information for us to know about your child, please feel free. I just muted myself. Did you hear anything that I said? Okay, good. It just muted right here. So I put that into the chat, which is the getting to know you form. If you did not fill that out before this open house, please take a moment if there's information that you think we need to know on a private scale. And at this point, if you do have any questions for any of us here, we're more than happy to answer them. I am going to be putting a link into the chat for our UA breakout session with our UA teachers, and that's going to happen at 7:10. It will be an opportunity for you to meet with those teachers and to discuss any of the questions that you for your child's UA. If there are personal questions, we're going to ask for you to refrain from actually addressing those questions in this public forum, but we'll be happy to answer those in a private basis. So you can certainly reach out or use the form that's posted in our Google link. So we'll answer any questions. I see that we do have the hand raise feature being used right now. So I'll answer a few questions and then I'll put the link to the breakout session in one moment. Okay. All right. Yes, I see a question from Mr. Hausman. Go right ahead.
Hey, thanks to all good folks who are doing such great work for our kids. And also a special shout out to our most excellent cross-country coaches. I'm sure you are so delighted to be back. This is a particular question for Ms. Reynolds. Could you briefly address your honors language arts section? What's special or different about that? Expectations? Are there long-term projects coming down the pike that are good for us to be aware of in the ways that you're getting them to try to write more and more and prep for next year at Hall? Thanks again to everybody.
Yes, so differentiation, like I talked about, happens with assessment methodology, long-term. You'll see extension tasks that we will do, and all of those will get separated from the math, what we call the standard level 8 in language arts and versus the honors. So it comes in with content, tasks, long-term projects, longer writing projects, and also text complexity.
I see a question in the chat about how can we best support our students this year at home, and that is amazing, and I appreciate that. I think, and I'll answer first and my teammates can jump in. I think the best thing to start with is encouraging them to be self-advocates and to be independent while still checking in with them. So, did you have homework tonight? Can I see it? Let's open Google Classroom. Let's open PowerSchool. Let's look at those two things together, and just continuing to keep a discussion ongoing about what they're doing each day in class. So staying engaged while also trying to strike that balance with teaching them to be independent learners and self-advocates, I think is my first suggestion. I don't know if my teammates want to jump in there.
I was just going to jump in. I think that what Ms. Chenard said is excellent, and that was my first thought. The other thing that, again, could be a group activity at home is we're seeing, especially this year, that students are really struggling with, a lot of students are struggling with organization and keeping all of their stuff straight. I think they had a very different year last year with everything being digital, and now they're getting papers again, and some of them are struggling to keep everything straight. So spending some time making sure that your student has a cleaned out backpack, some folders, that they're putting things in their folders regularly, maybe a binder, maybe a file of facts, not file of facts, but like the different sections. So that's something that we as a team have noticed, and we're actually working to address it on the school level. But that's a nice thing also that you can on a Friday afternoon to say, okay, let's make sure, let's go through, let's clean out. Don't just throw everything away, because some people like to do that. Don't just throw it away, but go through and kind of see what's going on there and get them organized for the next week.
May I jump in, Ms. Wexler? That's actually a great question about what you can do to help. Tomorrow's Talk to Me Tuesday, Amethyst team is dedicating that to the 6 healthy habits of successful students. Because we're finding as we're coming back into the building and we're conducting like a 9-period rotating schedule, that kids really need some reminders about organization, the exploding backpacks that we're seeing, and folders, like we have them, but are they being used? So it might be a nice conversation to follow up with tomorrow at the end of the day. What did you learn about with these 6 habits? What did your teachers share out with you? They can pull up that information in their MA Google Classrooms, and it can be some nice talking points as far as what the kids are doing in school and what you can also mirror at home for those organizational strategies. I say in my class, organization is the key to success. It alleviates that stress, that unneeded stress and anxiety, and helps you really blaze that trail forward to accomplishment. Are there any other
If,
questions?
Ms. Reynolds, if I could
Maybe?
just add one more thing,
Sure,
as the parent of 2 high school freshmen who've gone through this process, I have one of my children that needs the check-in quite frequently with the Friday afternoons coming from Google Classroom. The other kind of just goes through school seamlessly in a way, but still gets our attention. But yeah, keeping track of between Google Classroom and PowerSchool and kind of seeing how those match up, particularly with the Friday afternoon updates. That's what I found to be helpful too. That's all I'll say.
I know we have to get you off to the UA presentations. So I'm going to put that link in the chat. That is the link for the UA breakout room. So that's our art, music, etc. presentation. So you'll all be able to meet those folks all in one place. So, you know, maybe you need to take a movement break or stand up and get a drink. I'll send you guys off to that. The link is in the chat. And if you have any last minute questions, we'll stay on for just a few more minutes. We don't want to impede on that presentation because I know they put a lot of thought and effort into it. So if you want to head out, we'll see ya. Thanks for coming. We appreciate all you taking the time, and we really look forward to a great year. I'm honored to be part of this team. I love going to work every day to work with these 4 individuals and obviously everybody at KP, but I think, and I'm biased, that Amethyst is a really great place for all your students. So thank you for sharing them with us, and we appreciate it.
I do see we have a question.